moment, so I'm in Australia, and winter is coming up, and I've never realized how it is to live in a house without insulation. So it's really cold inside, and all you want to do in the morning is stay in bed.
There's no insulation there?
Nah. We're spoiled.
God. Oh my goodness. So a little bit of an
to wake
intro
up
to
properly.
anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So a little bit of an intro to anyone who is watching right now. I'm Susie from Acaia. I'm currently based in Berlin, where Nicole is originally from. So I'm going to be we're running these IG lives to talk about what everyone's doing at the moment, how they got into coffee, or like their choice of expertise. If you would like to ask a question during the live, there's a little button on the bottom of the screen, which is a question mark in 2 boxes. If you click that, you can ask us a question. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. One of the many things you do, out of all the many things you do.
So my name is Nicole. I'm from Germany, and I started in coffee like 2015, or like in specialty coffee, but I was always working in coffee or coffee related jobs. And once I started working in specialty coffee, I realized how interesting everything is and how many things I could learn. And I remember the first time I've seen the German Barista Championships, and it was 2015 with Anna Tosberg, and I just watched her on stage and I saw how she performs, and I was so fascinated by it that I really, really, really wanted to be like her. I wanted to be on this stage, and so I did the next year. So in 2016, I competed for the first time, and didn't really have lots of expectations on placing really high, but I came second. I think that was when like I really wanted to go on and to see how far I can go. So in 2018, I became the German Barista champion. And ever since that time, I just always competed again and again and again and again. And when I didn't win the Barista championship, I realized in 2019, oh my God, I've got this will to like just do something really good. So I started competing in coffee and good spirits as well. And in 2019, I became the German Coffee and Good Spirits champion, and then could go to the Worlds, which was luckily in Berlin as well. And placed 5th in the world in this competition. And that was so far like one of the most funnest events I've ever been to. And it was really inspiring, and it was really pushing. And then afterwards, I obviously, when you compete and you do that very persistently, you meet a lot of people, and you can get a lot of connections. And I just got the opportunity to move to Australia to my wonderful fiance, and to also work for an incredible company, which is Honor Coffee. And now I'm here working for this awesome company, being surrounded by absolute coffee geeks, and they're all crazy. Seriously, all they do all day long is talk about coffee and drink and breathe it. I don't know. It's been a huge step in my environment, in my whole educational skills as well. So that's really, really cool. I can only encourage everyone to go overseas or to go to another country to learn more about coffee. It's really cool.
Well, not right now, obviously, but soon, once this is all over.
Yeah, once this is all over. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. And I think a lot of people know about you competing, especially in coffee and good spirits, and obviously in German Barista and competing a lot. But you're also like a roaster as well, or you used to be a roaster, and then you also train people as well.
Yeah. Well, I used to roast more because I was pushing, because we really needed someone. And it was funny because it was really, really tricky to learn, because it has a lot about like how do you feel the coffee? If you understand the whole process? But once you kind of like understood it, it's like driving a car, like, or a lorry. It's kind of like it is really important to stay focused all the time, because otherwise you crash. But it's also really not that exciting. Yeah, but so that was really, really fun and really cool. But I do prefer working at the bar or teaching people, because that's where there's obviously way more communication in that. And especially teaching people, I get the chance to bring over some of this passion and make them really fascinated and make them understand more. So they question more, and then they really want to learn more, which is really cool.
Very nice. And like I've noticed you've been doing lots of kind of social media stuff. You just started your own podcast?
Yes. Yeah. So last year, after the German Barista Championship in 2019, I placed third, and that wasn't the place that I wanted to have. And I felt very frustrated and very bad, and I felt that I'm not good enough. And I shared that in one of my posts on Instagram, being like, I'm sorry that I didn't place the place that I wanted to place. And I got so much feedback from my followers being very positive and being like, you're really inspiring us, sharing so much with us, so that I had that idea to be like, okay, that's actually really what I want to do. I really want to inspire people and like want to help them to get better. So the idea grew of building a platform where we can communicate women in the coffee industry, and show different stories and really encourage other people. But it was hard to focus on this because there's so much happening in this year with the World Championship and everything, and my move. So the pandemic over the last months actually gave me time to focus back on this project, and I started a podcast that's called She's the Barista. In this podcast, I want to focus on women in the industry without excluding men. So it's a very open dialogue between everyone. And so far, I had the opportunity to interview really amazing guests. So it was my first podcast was with Wendelin van Bonnik, the AeroPress champion, world AeroPress champion. And the second episode is with Agnieszka Rowieska. Yeah, and then explain who that is. And it was just like really, really cool to talk to her and to get to know them in a kind of way. Like, I don't know if I'm just doing that for my own benefit to like get to know the people more, but it's also really cool to share. Yeah.
And like, is there anything that like you're definitely one of these people that has started in coffee, and we're always told when people start in coffee, you went like your line in coffee is to go from barista to manager to maybe an owner. But there's now a lot of people where we're going and becoming photographers, or we're becoming podcasters, or we're becoming kind of more media orientated within the specialty coffee community. Is there anything that you found surprising about kind of starting to do podcasts about coffee people and with coffee people, and especially like the last two ones you've done?
I think it's more of a project because my actual real life, my day-to-day life is standing at the bar, serving coffee to people. And that is my main job, and that's a job that I really, really love. So the podcast for me is just a chance to reach out and to, I think there's many things that I found really fascinating. Now I have to kind of like, which podcast did I? Okay, so I can't talk about this one because it's really exciting, but I didn't release that yet. So everyone stay tuned. But for example, when I was talking to Wendelin about her private hobbies like dancing and how, because she's doing a lot of Latin American dance, it was an important lesson for her to say no. I was like, wow, that is, and like, I didn't know that about her. And also it's a great story to tell for other people to be encouraged to be like, you don't always have to follow what society wants you to do. And with Agnieszka, I found it very interesting how she always wanted to be a football player. and had her career laid out like this, and then everything just changed, and then she just ended up in coffee. So that's also an incredibly interesting story. And also with Agnieszka at the end, we both, because of the break in the moment, both were like discussing, are we going to compete again? Are we not going to compete again? Which is a very interesting thing to listen to for everyone else. Is she going to compete again? We don't know. Oh, or maybe do we?
And are you planning on competing again?
It's so hard to tell. As the one thing that this year showed me was that everything is like very open very open. But on the other side, I know that especially coffee and good spirits is so much fun for me. Like it is just so much fun, and I have a routine ready, and I'm just dying to show this routine because I know that people are going to laugh, they're going to cry, they're going to be astounded, they're going to be like, what is she doing? So yeah, I really want to show that because I'm so convinced of the presentation that I've worked on so far.
Nice. And like, obviously you just said that you recently moved from Germany to Canberra, right?
Yeah,
You
Canberra,
never know if I'm saying that Canberra.
Canberra,
Have you noticed like a big difference between like the coffee communities there and like?
Oh yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Canberra.
Yes.
Have you noticed like a big difference between like kind of how coffee, especially coffee, is in Berlin and Canberra?
I think the first thing that everyone always told me was just like, you're moving from Berlin, which is the craziest city a lot of people have ever been to Canberra, which is very nice, clean, small, and suburban. It's going to be a big change. I'm like, it's going to be fine. It was a very big change. It is very, very different. But on the other side, the coffee community here, I've never seen the approach so much of coffee being a family and of like people treat their jobs like it is their life and their family. A lot of the know from Germany that you do it relatively good, but your main goal from your job is to earn money. So you go to work, you do your hours. It's okay if you don't enjoy it, and you go home, and I feel like it's so you go to work, and that's everything you ever wanted. That's your life. The interaction, it shows in the interaction with the customers as well. I mean, I've always heard that Australian customer service is very different to European approach, but it is so on such a personal level that I was very freaked out at the start, being like, why does everyone want to know my name? Why are they asking me all of these questions? I don't know, privacy. Yeah. And also on the research side, I don't know if I can speak about all of the coffee shops here because I obviously only work for one, but for the one that I work for, being Honor, is incredibly innovative, open. They always push forward. They always include all of the baristas. They always want to know opinions. It's just a very great environment to be surrounded with. And then when you go for dinner with friends, obviously you have at least half an hour coffee talk because that's just what they do. It's crazy. Love it.
That sounds good then.
It's really, really good. Like from a professional point of view and from the coffee side, is really good.
Yeah, nice. And did I see that have you already had your coffee this morning, or are you about to make some?
I was planning to make one. I've got my V60 over here.
Nice.
I think my partner also just got up and he's dying to get a coffee. So I'm just gonna help him a little bit to get into the day. I have got a coffee, which is one of the coffees that surprised me the most in the last couple of weeks. It's a El Salvador Natural. Um,
Mm.
and it is, I feel like this is not a natural, but sometimes you call coffees like a supernatural because they're so sweet and so full and so creamy. So that's what we're going to drink today. And also another thing that I've learned during the quarantine, because I was part, or I am part of one of the greatest projects that I think the quarantine has brought to us, which is the Quarantine Coffee Club. And that's 16
Oh,
baristas,
nice.
22 baristas from over 16 countries. And they all show their little recipes of how to brew coffee at home. So if everyone always like, if anyone ever wants to have a recipe, just visit that account. They're really, really cool, and a lot of different recipes. But Lex Wennegar, for example, who placed second in the world in 2018, blew my mind by saying you don't have to wet the paper of the V60. So that's how I'm doing it now. I'm
So
not wetting the paper.
have you stopped doing it?
Yeah, I know. He said, "Do you taste the difference?" I'm like, I always thought I did, and then I've tried it at home, like probably really not that much. So at work, and I'm still doing it, obviously, because it just gives you a more professional approach, or people think you're more professional. But at home, whatever.
Mm. Yeah, because I think I'd always been told like the reason you wet the paper is because you're getting rid of the paper taste,
Mm. But I think the paper,
but
like
apparently not anymore.
if Hario, for example, what I'm using in the moment, produces paper and they know it tastes like paper, they wouldn't be doing a good job.
Mm.
So obviously they're
This is true.
creating paper that already tastes like nearly nothing. So it's fine.
And what recipe are you using? Are you using like 18 grams or?
Right now I'm using 15 grams on 240 milliliters. My temperature for this coffee is 95. And I
Hmm.
gave it a bloom, so the first contact of the coffee with the water, so that the coffee can actually give out all of its aroma, was 60 grams on for 30 seconds. And now I'm just kind of like topping it up. So I read one time a recipe by Scott Rao, or a theory, and this theory is please avoid high and dry, which made a lot of sense to me because when you pour and you let everything drain, you have a lot of particles on the top of your paper filter that extract for a shorter amount of time than your particles in the lower bottom of the coffee. So I think extracting your coffee evenly, you can only get if you do if you fill your coffee up to the same level all the time, so it actually extracts your whole coffee ground. But what I've learned here in Australia is a different approach, which is 5 equal pours. So you pour 5 times equal amounts of water, and you always let it drain completely, which gives you
Mm.
more body, I think, and a little bit more acidity as well. So yeah, I'm nowadays kind of like switching between those two methods, and I can then decide. So I make a new coffee. I do both methods on the coffee. I can decide, so a natural might be better with this technique, and the washed might be better with the 5 equal pours. And this actually really helped me a lot of understanding how to approach the different processes better. Yeah.
Nice. And I'm guessing, are you brewing a lot at home at the moment? Like more
Oh
so
yeah.
than ever or less than ever?
Um, I think I'm actually relatively okay because I actually don't drink that much coffee per day. I drink small
Mm.
amounts because the coffees that we have are very, very rich and flavorful. I think one person earlier asked what is on our coffee. So it's just the company that I work for, but also they buy really, really great beans, and sometimes they're very intense. So I can't really drink a whole jug of one of those super rich coffees. That's why I drink small amounts, but my partner drinks about 2 liters per day. And
Oh,
this is
damn.
actually why it's very good to have a mocha master.
Nice. You've got the
So
dream home
usually
setup right now.
we do. So we usually make two cans of mocha master, and then maybe a small hand brew just to try different coffees.
Have you done it yet where you've set it on a timer so it like starts brewing coffee before you wake up?
Oh no, not yet. But it takes 3 minutes. The mocha
Not
master is
yet.
one of the fastest things that I've ever come across. And it's so easy to use that I'm just like, if you wake up and before you go to the bathroom, you just turn it on and then it's ready. And
Nice.
it's got a heating
And
plate, so
someone
it
just
stays warm
asked, could you
forever.
please repeat the quantities of the coffee and what? Oh, nice.
Hmm.
Could you repeat the quantities of the coffee and water? Or like, I guess even just
I
to repeat
used
your recipe.
Yeah, I used 15 grams of coffee on 240 milliliters of 95 degrees hot water. I gave it a bloom for 30 seconds with 60
Mhm.
milliliters. And after the bloom, I fill it up to 110 milliliters. And then I kind of like hold the level of the 110, like the level that shows in the paper filter. And at 1 minute and 50 seconds, I should have filled all of my water up, which is 240 milliliters, so that my actual extraction time of my whole coffee is 2 minutes and 40 for 240 milliliters.
Very nice.
That's the recipe.
So just to remind people that if you can ask questions on the bottom, and we are going to be putting this onto our
Yeah.
IGTV if you want to like brew along with Nicole later on when it's the perfect coffee time in your country or time zone.
Oh, all right.
And are you like, so you're brewing more at home at the moment? Have you been brewing anything else like just V60 or a Mocha Master? Mocha Master, Mocha
My
Master.
main, yeah, the main coffee that I use at home is Mocha Master because it's so easy, and it's always consistent. But because I'm also trying lots and lots of different cocktail recipes, um,
Mm,
I'm trying to find an extraction way to get similar to maybe an espresso profile, and that's why I'm using the Espero press a lot. So the Espero press
oh,
is,
nice.
yeah, that's a travel press, so it's perfect for small amounts. And it's kind of like a French press, but it has a micro sieve in it, which stops your extractions once you plunge it, so it gets a cleaner taste. But I can do a higher extraction yield in it, so it's very good for high concentrated coffees, which you need for coffee and good spirits.
Nice. And like,
Yeah.
have you already chosen what type of coffee you're going to use for Coffee and Good Spirits next time?
But that's a hard one because I think I found a very, very solid, incredibly good coffee that would just that's just incredibly good. But I don't know if I'm going to come across one where I think, oh, it might be a bit better. So I
Mm,
can't say if I'm going to use the same one where I'm already very convinced of. And in case I don't find a better one, I can always go back to this one that I have
nice. And do you
because
have
I froze.
any, because since you have frozen.
Yeah, I froze it
Um,
all.
and since you are someone like, because I guess usually like Coffee and Good Spirits is a new enough type of competition, especially like on the world stage, because it's only really gotten really big in the last few years. Is there any like recommendations you would give to people who are making coffee and good spirits at home, or like coffee based cocktails?
Yeah. My first suggestion is check out my website because I've actually written down a lot of the recipes. And if you go on nicolebattefeld.com/cocktails, I've given like not just the recipes, but also how to make the coffees. My main suggestion, where I think a lot of specialty coffee people get lost in, is you can't use a very light roast. You can't use a very delicate coffee because it will not be strong enough to compete against the alcohol. And to use a very heavy, maybe even an espresso roast, or to maybe dose up your dose for your cocktails. And then you can't drink it by itself, but it will work in the cocktail. I think that's the main thing that everyone needs to first learn. And maybe I'm giving it up a very, very big secret, but yeah, espresso roast, preferably a natural, very heavy.
Nice. And do you have any alcohols you prefer, like spirits you prefer to use?
That is a very tough one to say because especially recently my cupboard is overflowing because I go to the liquor store and I'm like, oh, I want to try this. Oh, I want to try that. Can't
You don't need
say.
to show because
I can show you. It's like, especially we being from Berlin, being used to alcohol being quite cheap. Where is it? Oh,
nice.
yeah.
This is
And I've gotten
it's the type of cocktail. It's the type of cocktail kit that looks like it should be in like a wooden a library somewhere. It looks it looks so varied.
I mean, it's in the bookshelf, so. But yeah, I've gotten some really, really, really great alcohols. I think I can't really say that I've got a favorite alcohol because you need to stay very, very open-minded and diverse for all of the cocktails, especially on the competition stage, because there's different rounds in coffee and spirits, and especially in the first round, it's kind of like a roll the dice and see which spirit you get and then make a drink with it. So if you get too focused on one alcohol, you might lose your ability to adapt to other alcohols with the taste profile. So I would suggest to always be open-minded and curious about how you can add flavors to different spirits. How does gin work? How does whiskey work? I think once you understand how you can pair different flavors with that, you can then start experimenting, like, oh my God, amazing, I can make this taste like a peach iced tea by just adding a different ingredients.
Yeah. And you've definitely experienced like the world stage of coffee and good spirits. Have you noticed it like having more bartenders coming in, or is it going to be like more kind of coffee orientated people coming in?
I think the year that I was competing in 2019, it was actually mainly coffee people. But also, it's so hard to say because I was so stressed and so nervous that I couldn't really introduce myself to everyone. You get in this practice room and and then you see, oh my God, there's Agnieszka. Oh my God, there's Dan. Oh my God, there's all of these people. Danny Wilson, Manos. You get so small and actually don't want to talk to anyone. So I can't really say if there were more bartenders. But what I think is that baristas in coffee and good spirits are really pushing for a next level that is now recognized by bartenders, especially when you look at what Martin Hudak achieved, and he opened a bar in Sydney. Martin Hudak is the world coffee and good spirits champion from 2017, and he has one of the best cocktail bars in the world now. He opened a cocktail bar in Sydney called All Coffee Cocktail Menu, which just brings in the coffee side, and it's a perfect symbiosis.
Nice. And there's so many questions to ask you because I guess the thing is everyone knows everything about like the barista competitions and the brewers competitions, And as I said, like World of Coffee and Good Spirits is so new. For you, what's like the for you, what would be the most important part in like the points part of Coffee and Good Spirits?
Body and sweetness.
As in, like, do you know, body and sweetness?
We tend to think too complicated and too
Sorry,
diverse.
I will say you just cut out a little bit there.
Oh, am I back?
Okay.
Hello?
You're back now. You're definitely back now. You're back now.
So yeah, I wanted to say, especially in barista competitions, we tend to get very, very caught up in our thoughts and in our experiments, and are like, oh, and if you breathe out through your nose, you might get hints of pineapple. But yeah, what's actually a good guideline is if you stick to, okay, you know what, in cocktails, what's most important? It's body and sweetness. I do a drink, focus body and sweetness, and then if I keep going this direction, I can add different layers of experimental flavors. Yeah.
Nice. And how is going away from competition talk? How is quarantine happening in Canberra at the moment?
We're still in a semi-lockdown. It's been really challenging. Being like the last two months were very uncertain, very stressful. You don't know what's going to happen, and now winter is coming here, so we don't know if that's going to delay everything, because obviously people are going to get sick. So are they going to all think, oh my God, he's got corona, or does he just have a flu? It's just very uncertain. Last weekend, like the weekend that just was, the first cafes and restaurants were allowed to open again with 10 people inside, which is interesting because that doesn't define if it's 10 people with staff or without staff. So how many people are you actually?
Seriously?
Yeah, yeah, it's like, how many people are you actually allowed in? So that was, yeah, it's just a very uncertain time, and I think we go in waves. We go in waves where I think it's actually really great because I've got time to do other stuff, or and then like I'm so frustrated because I don't know what I'm actually doing, if the thing that I'm doing is getting me anywhere. I can only see it at my partner. He's been working for over 9, I think it's the 10th week now at home. We don't have a big apartment. Every day at home being like 14 hours on the computer is really, really stressful. So yeah, it's been an interesting situation, and I think the only thing that I know that I can take out of it is I'm just going to be happy when it's over.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think like
I'm going to
also
be
this
happy
thing
when
of
it's
like
over.
what's been happening is that, yeah, like I think it's this thing that like has been happening as well, is that people have been like discovering new hobbies. So for instance, like making lots of people, we've gotten lots of messages recently about people becoming like starting to brew at home for the first time, and like experimenting with watching recipes, so probably watching your recipes and other people's recipes. And like for you, what would be your first at-home thing to do when you're brewing coffee? Like what would you say is one of the most important things aside from the scale, like for when you're brewing
I want
coffee?
to say the scale.
We would know a little
um,
bit about that.
yeah, I think the setup is quite important. Like you need a scale, you need a kettle to do your the like, obviously the best possible one would be a kettle with a gooseneck, so you can actually pour properly. And
Mhm.
I think the main thing about making a good coffee is buying good coffee. So you can have the fanciest
Yeah.
equipment, you can have a Mocha Master, you can have an expensive Comandante, but if you buy not so great coffee, you will not get a great brew. So investing in really good beans is, I think, the main thing to do a good coffee at home.
Yeah. Yeah, because I always got taught that if you're looking for a good coffee, you look for kind of roast profile and then expiry date.
Yeah. Well, I would probably go for the online shops have really improved from all of the roasteries in the last couple of months, which is great. So you can usually scan your bag. You get a brew guide usually with it in the moment, or a link to a brew guide, which is fantastic for everyone who doesn't really know how to approach coffee in that sense. Um, and then I would probably look at origin first because I've learned how to approach coffee very, very strictly attached to geography. There's actually
Mm.
the coffee atlas from James Hoffmann, and I've learned a lot from this book, showing me different countries, different stories about the country, and why they grow what they grow. And this really made me understand coffee in another level. So I can only suggest this book. It's really, really good. Coffee Atlas, James Hoffmann, very good. So I usually go for process, origin, and yeah, if it's a filter roast.
Nice. And someone's just asking here, how do you keep yourself updated in the coffee world, or what's the best way to keep yourself updated in the coffee world?
I think we've never had the opportunity to stay as updated as in the moment because everyone is just going wild on social media, which is my main source to stay updated. I look at different accounts and see, oh,
Mm.
they're doing this, they're doing that. So that's a great way to do that. And the other thing that's very important is communication in within, if you work in coffee, in within your co-workers, because we tend to, or I know this from Europe or from Germany, we tend to you like just work together and keeping an interest and this curiosity about flavor and coffee and going home and experimenting and sharing this experiments with your coworkers or the people surrounding you. I think that is really, really important because it's a way to update yourself, to understand coffee yourself. Because there's not an innovation every single day in the coffee industry. It takes a little bit of time. So you can be the person starting a different kind of innovation.
Nice.
So I think
And
that's
I
very
think
important.
we'll maybe because I'm gonna let you have your coffee soon. But is there any questions you have for like us or any for like anyone watching at the moment?
As well as well, if anyone wants to ask me a question right now, well, now is the time. I guess.
Mm,
um, I'm very, very happy to see a lot of Germans being on this. It's very nice.
yeah.
I'm just having
We've
a
still got
look.
lockdown, but it's like starting to alleviate a little bit.
Oh yeah, I've seen that Berlin has a different approach to
Hmm. Um, someone's asking, why did you start the She's the Barista podcast?
it's for all the people in now and maybe haven't heard it earlier. It was actually out of a moment where I got so much support by myself that I wanted to give this support back to um, really empower women in the industry and to go up there. And I think it actually last year showed us how much potential um, female competitors have as well, because the worlds have been won by women so many times. The only competition that hasn't been won by a woman is Coffee and Good Spirits, and we're working on it. Um, and yeah, by sharing amazing stories from women in the industry, I hope that we can inspire other people to yeah to go out there and to just spread the message, to be confident in their own work, and to follow their dreams. If they want to work in coffee, there's nothing that can stop them.
Mm. And who are some future podcast guests? Like, well, you probably obviously have some future podcast guests that you're probably like,
Yeah.
it's on the down low, you're not saying it. What are some dream future podcast guests?
Oh, finally, I've got a couple of dream podcast guests already recorded. There's going to be a couple of more world champions, which is fantastic. So, yeah, I had the opportunity to interview a couple of them, and it's incredibly, yeah, it's for me even just like, oh my God, I'm allowed to talk to this person. It's so cool, and then sharing this conversation is very, very, it's actually is great motivation to keep on doing it. But on the other side, I also talk to people that influence the coffee world in a completely different way, because not everyone wants to compete and not everyone can relate to this. So I had the chance to talk to people that actually shape the industry on a different level, because origin is a very important fact. Roasting is a very, very important fact. So it's getting very, very diverse with the next couple of episodes.
Oh, nice. And is there any of them you're going to reveal now, or are you going to keep them secret?
I mean, today is Tuesday here. You still have Monday, or probably already Tuesday now. And Wednesday is podcast day, so it's just one more day to stay excited. And then I release who it is.
Oh, nice. And do you have them on like Apple and Google Play and stuff as well? Like, sorry,
Yeah,
you're having them on Spotify?
Spotify. They're on Spotify, they're on Google Podcasts, they're on a lot of podcast streaming platforms actually, that are also like for Android and other phones. But if none of this works, they're also on the website Nicole Battefeld podcast, where there's a direct listen to. Everyone can listen to it.
And this person's, would you be excited to have some people from Commodity Coffee? Is there anyone you would like to come on from Commodity Coffee? Or like non-specialty?
Do you want to explain Commodity Coffee?
Oh yeah, so commodity would be like, I guess, people who wouldn't count themselves as like specialty or super specialty, like people who would work more kind of I guess.
And consumers?
They're not so much
like
supermarket
like
stuff,
Illy.
or even like like Illy, or you could also say commodity coffee would be kind of smaller cafes that don't focus on the beans or like the origin of the beans, maybe.
That's very interesting, because I guess it would be a good chat to have with them. But on the other side, I'm going to have an interview as well with a person that I very, very admire, because she speaks up for specialty coffee against big brands who do commodity, because she's also from one of the origin countries, and she's going to give us more insights about what it means to come from an origin country and to see what commodity coffee does in comparison with specialty coffee. So I'm very excited for that, because I also want to get those insights, because obviously being from Germany, I don't know how it is to live in those countries. So I kind of like have a conflict with giving them a platform to support, but I would probably, I think it's more of a talk show form. If you have a talk show, you have two guests, one is specialty coffee, one is commodity. I would give this a listen to and a scene, but I don't want to do it as a podcast format. Don't think that's, for me, the right approach. And I'm just too outspoken about it. It'll be not real for me, and it will be a struggle for me as well to interview those.
Yeah. So are you saying your next thing is going to be a TV show?
Well, open for everything, you know.
Depends how long quarantine is. You might have a TV show by the end of it.
Oh, so everyone's watching. No, Yeah. I think there's what we also experienced in the last couple of weeks is like there's so many different formats that that are suited for different kind of like approaches how we treat this topic. Where I see a podcast is very private, is very storytelling, but obviously with commodity, I would have to have a conflicted discussion, where I think a podcast might not be the best platform for that.
Yeah. You would want like sort of someone from like both sides kind of discussing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be happy to be the narrator.
Be the person sitting in the middle.
Being like, I think she's right.
I think like what are some things you're gonna like within like the podcast and within competition that you're looking forward to within like the next year?
Oh, I'm just very excited for the next year to see how the industry goes out of this all. Like how much reinvention. I think a lot of companies had to reinvent themselves to survive this period. And I really want to see how that just affects the afterlife of the coffee industry. So I'm very excited about that. Obviously, for the podcast, I have no idea where that's going, but it's just very entertaining for myself as well. So I keep on doing it. And with coffee competitions, we've made a lot of jokes about it being like the next competitions that are going to be 90%. Hello, judges. I'm very excited to be here. And whilst I was in quarantine, I experienced with this and this. It's going to be like 90% of the people being like, I have fermented things for 6 months because I had the time. And now we forgot all of these amazing flavors. Which is awesome because I'm kind of like doing the same. I just have so much time to actually spend this time in researching different ingredients, and I think it's going to be next level. It's just going to be, people have had so much time to focus on this one thing and make it perfect. So it's going to be such a, I can't even put it in words, but it's going to be a firework of new inventions, I think, for the next competitions. Yeah, and I think it's also going to be a different atmosphere on the competition stage, because I think people are going to have this, we have waited so long to then finally be on that stage that people are going to explode with endorphins, being like, I'm finally on the stage. It's so good. I think there's going to be such a great atmosphere. I'm very looking forward to it. Very, very.
I think there's going to be a lot of excitement and a lot of tears at the same time.
A lot of like, oh, waited so long for this. Yeah.
Oh my God, all these people around me. It's going to be that kind of thing. Yeah, and like, do you have any like questions like for like us, like just before we end? Because I think everyone's getting, I think it's quite late here for now. Do you have any questions for like me or for like kind of the general coffee community about like what, like how everything is going and like, I don't know.
Well, I wanted to know who's next on the Acaia live. That was one of my questions, which is very interesting.
With the next person on the Acaia live is going to be a farmer, actually.
Oh, so insights. That's really good.
Yeah, so we're going to have a farmer from Brazil in the next one. So we'll be announcing more information tomorrow. But it should be a really good one because it's going to be done from the farm.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we have some people set up on the next few ones that are going to be people who work in kind of different coffee communities across Europe and the world. So it should be really exciting. We've got some very kind of we're trying to get like, our hope is for the coffee one is, our point is that we're talking to experts from around the world, and they can be either in coffee or something else like baking or in fermentation or something like that. So what we're trying to have at the moment is people that are maybe from like every part of the chain would be great, and then also people who are like within different coffee communities, people who are women in coffee like yourself, like people who are kind of on the different corners of kind of coffee community, like jobs you wouldn't immediately think of when you hear specialty coffee or you hear coffee kind of thing. So like people who are like their main job is like fixing espresso machines, or people who are involved mainly in podcasting, or people who are involved maybe in like photography or media, or even like events, like kind of events and like workers' rights and kind of stuff like that is kind of people we're talking to at the moment. So yeah, it's been like, for me, it's been very enlightening talking to people and seeing how everyone is doing in quarantine at the moment, and like how everyone is dealing with lockdown, and they're kind of if they're creative and how they're like adjusting and stuff like that, but also how people are people just like their backstories, how they got into coffee as well, and like how they got into competition and stuff like that is what, like, I think that's what is one of the most interesting parts of this, like almost people project that we're doing at the moment.
Yeah, so what do you think about, because events is a very good thing, and that's actually a big question that obviously that everyone has, but that I have as well. Is there a time that is realistic for Europe where events will happen again? Is it in discussion? Is anyone talking about it? Is it still very
this is my personal opinion, not really Acaia's, but at the moment, I think, like events are so important within the coffee community, because especially like on the level of barista, roaster, and like consumer, is that a lot of us are going to events, going to throwdowns, going to coffee events to meet people and become friends and strengthen relationships and friendships. And now that we don't have them, it's kind of hard to say when they're going to happen again, because while the countries might be opening up, is it responsible for people to be going? It's like, it's kind of, because you have to think about when you want to do it.
Yeah.
People in Europe are saying like October would be.
Well, we've looked at flights, because I would like to come back to Germany at a certain time, and in the moment, if I would book a flight in June, it's over $12,000 for one flight to Tegel, which is not open in the moment. So yeah, obviously, I'm also very curious about how this will change. Yeah, it's very, very interesting times.
Yeah, very interesting times. It might be that thing of now where we start doing the someone's gonna figure out how to do like virtual taste.
Oh my God.
So you can just pour your espresso into a machine, and then all your judges can taste around the world.
Oh, imagine that. And smell as well. Wow. And then with the goggles, with the VR goggles. Oh, amazing. Yeah. Future. Very, very interesting.
I'm gonna close this up. I think there's people writing in German. I'm going to close this up, but thank you so much, Nicole, for joining us. We're going to put this on IG Live. So yeah, of course, it was more than a pleasure. So people can see the IG Lives on our IG Live section. You can see most of the past ones as well. And I guess people can go to your website, find your recipes, and then also go to your Instagram, which we're going to tag you in as well. So
thank you.
I'll let you enjoy your coffee and have a lovely morning.
Yeah, right. Have a good night.
See you later. Yeah.